The live stream nearly froze in silence the moment Jungkook muttered under his breath, "Taehyung was the reason I wrote it." "What did you just say?" The staffer monitoring the chat practically dropped his tablet, eyes wide at Jungkook's hand tightened around the microphone, his jaw clenching as if he'd already realized the mistake. The live stream was still rolling, and the comment section was exploding with fire, hearts, and disbelief. Taehyung, sitting only a few feet away in the studio, blinked slowly, his lips parting but no sound coming out. The tension between them was suddenly unbearable, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "You weren't supposed to," Taehyung started, his voice low, almost a whisper meant only for Jungkook, but the fans had heard everything. "Don't act like it didn't slip out," Jungkook snapped, frustration cutting through his tone. "I'm tired of pretending. Everyone deserves the truth." Taehyung's gaze hardened. "The truth? Jungkook, do you have any idea what you've just done?" The producer in the corner muttered curses, motioning wildly for the cameraman to cut the feed, but it was too late. Screens across the world lit up with the scandal in real time. The chat was merciless. "Wait, did he say Taehyung? OMG, is this a confession? This is the biggest scandal ever. Maybe I want it to be a confession." Jungkook fired back, his voice trembling with both anger and raw honesty. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Taehyung stared at him, eyes searching, as if torn between fury and something much softer, something dangerous. "Do you even understand what you're risking?" Taehyung's tone cut like glass. "Not just for you. For me. For all of us." Jungkook leaned closer, defiance blazing in his words. "I risked everything already when I wrote that song. You just never asked why." The staff scrambled, phones buzzing with frantic calls from the label. The live stream had already been clipped and shared to millions of feeds, hashtags climbing the trending list at breakneck speed. "You always do this," Taehyung whispered harshly, leaning back, his fists clenched. "You let your emotions spill, and then I'm the one who bleeds for it." "Then say it," Jungkook challenged, his voice hoarse. "Say you didn't feel the same. Say you weren't the reason behind every line." Taehyung's breath hitched, but he didn't answer. The silence itself was louder than any denial. The studio became a battlefield of unspoken truths, where every pause felt like betrayal and every glance like a confession. The others in the room dared not intervene, too terrified of shattering the fragile moment that hung over them. "Jungkook, stop," Taehyung finally muttered, softer now, almost pleading. "If you love me like you claim, then don't destroy me with it." Jungkook's eyes glistened, but he forced a bitter laugh. "Destroy you? Or free you?" Before anyone could respond, the screen went black. The live stream was cut, but the damage was irreversible. Across the globe, fans erupted into chaos. Theories, accusations, and declarations of loyalty filled every platform. Some celebrated, others raged, and the media sharpened their knives for what promised to be the most explosive scandal in K-pop history. And in the suffocating quiet of the now dark studio, Jungkook and Taehyung sat in silence, both knowing nothing would ever be the same again. The studio lights were still burning hot, but the room felt colder than any winter Jungkook had ever endured. His chest rose and fell unevenly as he tried to steady his breath, every muscle locked in defiance. The silence after the stream cut was suffocating. No one moved. No one dared to speak. "Are you satisfied now?" Taehyung finally broke the silence, his voice raw, heavy with restrained fury. "Do you realize what you've just unleashed?" Jungkook turned his head slowly, meeting Taehyung's eyes without flinching. "I didn't unleash anything that wasn't already there." "Already there?" Taehyung's tone cracked, somewhere between disbelief and anger. "You think writing my name into your song wasn't dangerous enough? You had to announce it to the world." Jungkook's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Maybe I was tired of hiding." Taehyung slammed his palm against the desk, the sound jolting the staff who had been frozen in the corners of the studio. "You don't get to decide this alone. This isn't just about your pride, Jungkook. This is about everything we built. Our group, our careers, our lives. And what about us?" Jungkook shot back, his voice sharp and desperate. "What about everything I've been carrying, while you kept pretending it didn't exist? Tell me, Taehyung. Was I supposed to bury every feeling until it killed me?" The words sliced through the air, leaving Taehyung momentarily speechless. His eyes flickered with something vulnerable, but it vanished quickly, replaced by cold anger. "You don't understand the weight of what you've done," Taehyung said through clenched teeth. "Fans won't see this as poetry. They'll see it as betrayal. And the company—" He stopped, lowering his voice as though the walls themselves might be listening. "They will come for us. Both of us." Jungkook's voice softened, but his defiance didn't fade. "Let them. I'd rather be destroyed telling the truth than live another year drowning in lies." The producer cleared his throat nervously, glancing between the two of them like a referee trapped in a game far beyond his control. "We need to contain this. Right now. Before it spreads any further." "It's already everywhere," Jungkook said, shaking his head. "There's no containing it anymore." Taehyung pinched the bridge of his nose, as though trying to keep his composure. "Do you even care what this will do to me?" The question hit Jungkook harder than he expected. His throat tightened, but he forced the words out. "You think I don't care? You think every sleepless night I spent writing that song wasn't about you? About us?" "Stop," Taehyung hissed, his voice breaking. "Don't say it here. Not like this." But Jungkook wouldn't stop. He couldn't. The years of silence, of stolen glances, of unspoken words, all of it burned inside him, demanding release. "I wrote those lyrics because you left me no choice," Jungkook said, his voice trembling with intensity. "Every time you looked at me like I was nothing more than your bandmate, every time you walked away when I needed you most, I turned all of it into music because that was the only way I could survive you." The words landed like blows. Taehyung's hands curled into fists, but he didn't strike back. Not physically. Instead, his voice became dangerously calm. "You think survival gives you the right to destroy me?" Jungkook's reply came instantly. "No. Loving you did." The room fell silent again, the weight of the confession pressing down on everyone present. A staff member muttered something about stepping outside, but no one moved. No one dared. For the first time, Taehyung's anger cracked, revealing something far more painful beneath. His shoulders sagged as though the fight had drained from him, and his next words were barely audible. "Do you know what it feels like," he whispered, "to want the same thing but know you can never have it?" Jungkook's breath caught. "Then you admit it." Taehyung looked up, his eyes blazing with conflict. "Admitting doesn't change reality, and reality will destroy us if we let this go any further." But Jungkook only leaned closer, refusing to let the moment slip away. "Then let it destroy us. At least it would be real." Taehyung shook his head, almost laughing bitterly. "You're reckless. You've always been reckless. And you've always been a coward," Jungkook countered, his words like a knife. The insult stung. Taehyung froze, his lips parting as though to argue, but no words came. The truth in Jungkook's accusation left him speechless. The silence stretched, filled only by the buzzing of staff phones as updates poured in. Hashtags exploding worldwide, news outlets demanding statements, fans dissecting every second of the live stream clip. Finally, Taehyung whispered, almost to himself, "There's no going back now." Jungkook's voice softened into something almost tender. Maybe there never was. And in that fragile moment, with the world already tearing itself apart outside the studio walls, the two of them sat in the wreckage of their secrets, knowing everything had changed. The first wave of calls crashed into the studio like a storm. Phones lit up across the control desk, managers barking urgent orders from the other end of the line. Staff whispered frantically, their voices sharp with panic. "Shut everything down. Don't let them leave yet. No one says a word to the press, do you hear me?" One of the managers shouted over speakerphone, but Jungkook and Taehyung were no longer listening to the noise. They were locked in their own war, one that had been simmering for years and now erupted in full view of the world. "Why couldn't you just let the song exist?" Taehyung muttered, pacing back and forth, his hands trembling. "People would have speculated, sure, but you had to say it. You had to put my name in your mouth like you weren't already there in every verse." Jungkook interrupted, his voice sharp. "I wasn't going to sit here and watch you pretend it was about anyone else. I'm not ashamed of what I feel." Taehyung spun around, his eyes burning. "You think I'm ashamed of you? You won't even say my name without choking on it." Jungkook fired back. Taehyung's chest rose and fell rapidly. "This isn't about you and me. This is about survival." Do you understand the kind of fire you just threw us into? Jungkook stepped forward, his words low but searing. Then burn with me. The staff exchanged uneasy glances, some pretending to busy themselves with equipment, others openly staring as though witnessing history unfold. None of them dared intervene. The silence that followed was punctuated only by the endless buzzing of phones. Another staffer muttered, "Trending #1 worldwide already. The clips are everywhere. Headlines in 5 languages." Taehyung shut his eyes briefly, as if that would block out the chaos. "This is exactly what I've been trying to protect us from." "Protect?" Jungkook scoffed. "You've been hiding. There's a difference." Taehyung's eyes flew open, fury sparking again. "You think I wanted this life? You think I wanted to love you in the shadows, terrified of cameras, terrified of fans, terrified of the very people who claim to adore us?" Jungkook's breath caught, but he refused to back down. "Then stop living like a ghost. Stop acting like loving me is some kind of crime." Taehyung's voice broke. "Because to them, it is." For the first time, Jungkook faltered. He saw the cracks in Taehyung's armor. The fear, the exhaustion, the unbearable weight of their secret. His anger softened into something rawer, more vulnerable. "Do you think I don't know that?" Jungkook whispered. "Every night I wrote those lyrics, I thought about how they'd crucify us if they knew. But I also thought about how much it hurt to erase you from every line. And I couldn't do it anymore." The confession hung heavy between them, thick with longing and pain. Taehyung swallowed hard, torn between anger and the temptation to finally surrender. The producer's voice cut through the tension. "The label wants statements. Now." Neither Jungkook nor Taehyung moved. "Jungkook, they want you to say it was a slip, a misunderstanding," the producer urged. Jungkook laughed bitterly. "Of course they do." Taehyung's jaw clenched. "Do it. Say it was nothing. Say it wasn't me." Jungkook's gaze snapped to him. "You really want me to erase you again? After everything?" Taehyung's silence was answer enough. "You're unbelievable," Jungkook muttered, shaking his head. "You keep asking me to erase myself, erase us, just to protect an image that was never real to begin with. You think I want this?" Taehyung's voice cracked under the weight of his own restraint. "You think I don't dream of walking into the world with you without fear? But dreams don't survive in this business, Jungkook. Only masks do." The words cut deep, but Jungkook only stepped closer until there was barely space between them. "Then maybe I'd rather tear off the mask, even if it kills me." Taehyung's breath hitched, his eyes flickering dangerously close to giving in. For a moment, it seemed like the walls around his heart might collapse. But then the door burst open. A senior manager stormed in, his voice thunderous. "What the hell was that? Do you realize what you've just done?" Jungkook and Taehyung both turned, the fragile moment shattered. The manager pointed directly at Jungkook. "You are going to sit down and you are going to film an apology video tonight. Do you hear me?" Jungkook straightened his shoulders, defiance radiating from him. "No," the room froze. "No?" the manager repeated, stunned. "Do you want to end your career? Maybe it's time I stop living for a career and start living for myself." Jungkook shot back. Taehyung's heart lurched, torn between admiration and terror. He opened his mouth to speak, but the manager's fury drowned him out. "You listen to me, Jungkook. You think the fans are exploding now? Wait until the sponsors drop us. Wait until the industry shuts its doors on you. You'll have nothing left." Jungkook's voice was quiet but unshakable. "I'd rather have nothing than keep lying." The words struck like thunder. The manager gaped, speechless, before storming back out to rally damage control. When the door slammed shut, the room was silent again. Taehyung finally whispered, his voice trembling. "You just declared war." Jungkook turned to him, his eyes burning with a mixture of pain and devotion. "Then stand with me or watch me fight alone." Taehyung's lips parted but no words came. His silence was the heaviest answer of all. And outside those 4 walls, the world was already on fire. The notifications pouring into the control room became a deafening symphony. News outlets calling non-stop, staff group chats buzzing with red alerts, journalists demanding official responses. Screens across the walls lit up with live updates. Hashtags climbing into millions of tweets, clips of Jungkook's slip replayed again and again, dissected frame by frame. "Taehyung was the reason I wrote it. He said it clear as day. One anchor declared on a breaking news stream, "The internet is on fire." And the question now is, what happens to BTS? Inside the studio, Jungkook sat down heavily in his chair. His knuckles pressed against his lips as if holding back 1,000 words. His defiance had burned hot minutes ago, but now it simmered into something quieter, dangerous in a different way. Across from him, Taehyung paced restlessly, his phone buzzing with relentless notifications. He ignored them all. Finally, he slammed the phone down on the table. "This is spreading too fast," Taehyung muttered. "If you don't clear it up, they'll tear you apart. They'll tear me apart." Jungkook's eyes lifted, weary but unwavering. "Maybe they should know the truth." "You don't get it." Taehyung snapped, his voice sharp raw. "It's not just about us. It's about our families, our careers, our members. You think they won't be dragged into this? You think they won't suffer?" Jungkook stood suddenly, pushing his chair back with a screech. "Then what do you want me to do? Lie again? Pretend it was about some faceless stranger? Pretend you never existed in my life?" "Yes," Taehyung shouted, his voice breaking. "Because that's the only way we survive." The silence that followed was brutal. Jungkook's chest rose and fell, his eyes shimmering with a storm of emotions. He took a step closer, his words trembling. "Surviving isn't the same as living, Taehyung. Don't you see? Every day we wear masks, every day we give them everything. Our music, our souls, while hiding the one thing that makes us human. I can't do it anymore." Taehyung's breath faltered. His anger was still there, but underneath it was something else. A fracture, a crack in the wall he had built around himself. Before he could respond, the door slammed open again. This time another manager entered, clutching a tablet. His face was pale. "It's everywhere," he said hoarsely. "CNN, BBC, every major outlet. The hashtags are," he paused, scanning the screen. "Hashtag taekook, hashtag Jungkook confession, hashtag protect Taehyung. It's global. It's war out there." The staff fell into hushed whispers. Some looked at Jungkook with pity, others with anger, all of them knowing their lives had just shifted irreversibly. Taehyung dragged a hand through his hair, muttering curses under his breath. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." Jungkook turned toward him, his voice softer now. "Afraid of what?" "That the world would know I love you." Taehyung froze, the words hitting him like a blow. His throat worked, but no reply came. The manager slammed the tablet onto the table. "You two need to decide right now. Either Jungkook apologizes and denies everything, or we all go down in flames." Jungkook didn't hesitate. "Then let it burn." Gasps rippled through the staff. The manager's face went red. "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" Jungkook's eyes never left Taehyung. "I'm saying I'm done lying." The weight of his words pressed down on the room, suffocating and electrifying all at once. Taehyung stared at him, his expression unreadable, torn between fury, fear, and something dangerously close to surrender. "You'll drag us both into ruin," Taehyung whispered finally. His voice hoarse. Jungkook's reply was a whisper too, but filled with fire. "Then at least we'll go down together." Outside, the digital world roared louder. Fans split into factions, some screaming in celebration, others crying betrayal. Articles popped up by the second, titles screaming with speculation. Jungkook confirms secret love song? Is it Taehyung? The confession that shook K-pop. Jungkook's slip heard around the world. Army divided. Celebration or scandal? And as chaos reigned online, inside the studio, Jungkook and Taehyung stood in the ruins of their silence, knowing nothing could ever return to the way it was. The night was far from over. Taehyung's phone buzzed violently against the table again. He ignored it until Jungkook's eyes flicked to the screen, catching a glimpse of the caller ID Jinhyung. "Answer it," Jungkook said flatly. Taehyung shook his head, pushing the phone away as though it burned him. "Not now." "Why not?" Jungkook pressed, his tone biting. "Because you're afraid he'll hear the truth too? Or because you're afraid he'll tell you to stop running from it?" The accusation cut deep. Taehyung's lips pressed into a thin line, his silence louder than denial. The manager barked from across the room. "This isn't the time for your personal drama. The company is drafting statements. Jungkook, you'll film an apology. Taehyung, you'll deny everything. That's the plan." Jungkook laughed bitterly, shaking his head. That's always the plan, isn't it? Deny, deny, deny. Pretend we're just 7 brothers who never bleed, never fight, never fall in love. Pretend we're machines built to smile on stage. Taehyung's eyes snapped to him sharp. Don't drag the others into this. I'm not dragging them, Jungkook shot back. I'm dragging us out of a lie we've been choking on for years. The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jungkook's gaze softened, his voice trembling now. Do you remember Busan? That night on the rooftop after the concert? You told me you'd never felt more alive than when you were standing next to me. And then the next morning you acted like it never happened. I wrote half the song from that night, Tae. Don't tell me it wasn't real. Taehyung's face paled. Memories flashed before him. The rooftop lights, the distant roar of the sea, Jungkook's laughter echoing in the wind. His own reckless confession whispered too softly for anyone else to hear. He'd buried it deep, convincing himself it had been nothing but the intoxication of the moment. Stop, Taehyung said weakly, his voice trembling. Don't bring that up here. Why not? Jungkook's voice broke, raw and desperate. Because it would mean admitting you felt something too? That all these years I wasn't just singing into a void. Taehyung turned away, his fists clenched at his sides. He couldn't look at him. Not now. The staff, sensing the air had grown too heavy, busied themselves with fake tasks, checking wires, tapping at screens, anything to avoid watching what felt like a private implosion broadcast in real time. The manager slammed his hand on the desk. Enough. You two don't get to decide this. The label does. Do you want to be blacklisted? Do you want every endorsement gone? Do you want ARMY to turn against you? They already have, Jungkook muttered. And indeed, outside, the internet had become a battlefield. On one side, fans flooded the timeline with messages of support. They deserve to love freely. Stop controlling them. If Jungkook wrote that song for Taehyung, I'll support them with everything I have. But on the other side, fury boiled. This is betrayal. He's ruining the group's image. They've lied to us all along. Fan edits emerged within minutes, compiling every glance, every touch, every lyric, painting a picture of a secret love story. Others dismissed it as delusion, attacking those who believed. The headlines grew harsher. Some celebrated bravery. Others predicted collapse. Back in the studio, Taehyung finally turned back to Jungkook, his eyes blazing with both fury and sorrow. You think this is brave? He demanded. No, Jungkook. This is selfish. You didn't just confess your feelings, you confessed mine. Without my permission. Jungkook flinched as if struck. Taehyung stepped closer, his words cutting like a blade. Do you realize what that means for me? I never had the chance to decide whether I wanted the world to know. You ripped that choice from me. The truth of it hit Jungkook like a punch to the gut. His breath faltered. He struggled for words. I thought. You thought wrong, Taehyung spat, though his voice cracked with pain. You don't get to speak for me. Not to them. Not like this. The silence that followed was unbearable. Jungkook's defiance crumbled into something fragile, almost childlike. His voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. I just wanted you to know you weren't alone. Taehyung's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed him. For a fleeting moment there was no anger, no fear, only longing. The door opened again. Another staff member rushed in, pale and frantic. It's too late, she said breathlessly. They're outside. Reporters. Fans. The street's already blocked. We can't get either of you out without a riot. The room froze. Taehyung stared at Jungkook, his expression unreadable. Then he whispered almost to himself, We're trapped. Jungkook met his gaze steadily. Not trapped. Just finally seen. And as the voices outside grew louder, pressing against the studio walls, the two of them stood in the wreckage of truth, neither ready to move forward, neither able to go back. The night had only just begun. The pounding outside grew louder, shouts, chants, flashes from cameras bleeding through the thin blinds of the studio windows. Jungkook, Taehyung, say something. Is it true? Are you together? The walls seemed to vibrate with the frenzy. Staff rushed to block the doors with equipment, their panicked whispers cutting through the noise. They followed the live stream here, one assistant muttered, pressing her ear to the door. It's not just reporters, it's fans. Dozens. Maybe hundreds already. The manager cursed under his breath. Security is on the way. Don't let them out of this room. Taehyung stood frozen, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, as if bracing against an invisible storm. Jungkook, meanwhile, leaned back against the desk, his head tilted up, eyes closed, as though he were listening to the chaos like a song only he understood. Taehyung turned to him, his voice low and sharp. Are you satisfied now? Look what you've started. Jungkook opened his eyes slowly, meeting his gaze with startling calm. I didn't start this. We did. Years ago. Tonight just pulled the curtain. Taehyung's lips parted to retort, but before he could speak, the door rattled violently. Someone trying to push in from the outside. Staff pushed back, shouting, "Move, we're with the press. Open the door or we'll report you're hiding them." The room erupted in panic. Staff grabbed phones, calling security, their voices tense. Jungkook chuckled bitterly. Do you hear that? They're not going to stop. No apology video will quiet them now. The manager snapped. Stop talking like you know how this works. You're a singer, not a strategist. Jungkook's reply was soft but laced with steel. I'm a human being. That's all I've ever been. And that's the part you never planned for. The words cut through the chaos like a blade. For a moment, even Taehyung was silent, staring at him as though seeing him differently for the first time. Then another voice broke the tension, a phone on the desk buzzing with an incoming call. The screen flashed with a name that silenced the entire room. Namjoon. Taehyung lunged forward, snatching the phone before anyone else could. He answered quickly. Hyung. The voice on the other end was calm, but underlined with urgency. What the hell happened? Taehyung pressed a hand against his forehead. It slipped. He said my name. There was silence for a long moment. Then Namjoon spoke again, firm and controlled. Both of you, listen to me carefully. Don't say another word on record. Don't post, don't stream, don't breathe this into the internet any more than it already is. Do you understand? Jungkook leaned closer to the phone, his tone defiant. Hyung, it's too late. They already know. No, Namjoon shot back sharper now. They don't know. They speculate. That's different. Don't make it worse. Taehyung exhaled shakily, relief and fear mixing in his chest. What do we do then? There was a pause. Then Namjoon's voice softened, heavy with a kind of tired sadness. Stay put. I'll handle the company. But Jungkook, listen to me. If you care about Taehyung at all, stop fueling the fire. Protect him, even if it means swallowing your pride. The words hit like a hammer. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his defiance faltering. He said nothing. Taehyung ended the call, his hand trembling slightly as he set the phone down. He looked at Jungkook, eyes searching. You heard him, Taehyung said softly. Protect me. The plea was quiet, but it cracked Jungkook open. His breath shuddered, his chest tight with conflict. He wanted to scream, to fight, to tell the world everything, but Taehyung's eyes begged him for silence. For the first time that night, Jungkook looked away. Outside, the crowd grew louder. Sirens wailed in the distance, security and police finally pushing through. The manager wiped sweat from his brow, barking orders to staff. Get them out separately. No photos. No answers. But as Jungkook and Taehyung stood in opposite corners of the studio, the truth hung between them like smoke. Undeniable, uncontainable, already spreading through every corner of the world. And as the door finally cracked open to a wall of flashing lights and screaming voices, they both knew one thing. The war had only just begun. The press conference room was suffocating. Rows of reporters crammed shoulder to shoulder, cameras flashing like machine guns. Outside the building, thousands of fans pressed against barricades, chanting, screaming, crying. The world had been waiting for this moment. For weeks, every rumor, every leak, every debate led here. HWB executives lined the back wall, pale with dread. BTS members sat at the long table, each face betraying a different storm. Jin stone-hard, Namjoon exhausted but resolute, Jimin trembling, Yoongi unreadable, Hoseok visibly anxious, and then Jungkook and Taehyung. They sat side by side, their silence electric. Taehyung's hand was hidden under the table, clenched so tightly his knuckles ached. Jungkook's leg bounced uncontrollably, but his eyes burned with a fire no one could dim. The first reporter stood. Jungkook, Taehyung, the question the world once answered. Is the song about him? Cameras clicked. Microphones thrust forward. The room felt like a battlefield. Jungkook leaned forward. His voice didn't shake. Yes. Gasps rippled like an earthquake. The reporters shouted over each other. A frenzy of questions exploding all at once. HYB executives nearly collapsed in their seats. The members froze, caught between horror and awe. But Jungkook wasn't finished. Yes, the song is about Taehyung, because for years I wrote for him. About him. About us. I kept it hidden because I was scared. Scared of this moment. Scared of you all. But I'm done hiding. He turned, eyes locking with Taehyung. For a moment the world blurred, the flashing lights, the noise, the chaos. Just two people, finally unmasked. Taehyung's throat tightened. Every instinct told him to stay silent, to protect the group, to protect everything they'd worked for. But Jungkook's confession had shattered the walls. Slowly, he reached for the microphone. I never asked him to write those songs, Taehyung said softly but firmly. But I can't deny them. They're real. We're real. And if the world hates us for it, then so be it. The room erupted into pandemonium. Some reporters screamed in disbelief. Others smiled with glee at the scandal of the century. Outside, fans wept, some out of heartbreak, some out of relief, some out of rage. Inside, the other members sat frozen. Jin pressed his hands to his face. Namjoon whispered, God help us. And Jimin silently cried. Hoseok closed his eyes like he was praying. Yoongi smirked just faintly. Not because he was happy, but because he admired the courage. One reporter shouted above the chaos. Do you realize what this means for BTS? For your future? Jungkook didn't hesitate. Yes, and I'll carry that weight. Every part of it. But I won't lie anymore. And with that he stood, pulling Taehyung with him. Together they walked out, past the flashing lights, past the shouting questions, past the stunned silence of their brothers, into a storm that would either destroy them or set them free. The door slammed behind them, cutting off the chaos. For the first time in years, the world saw Jungkook and Taehyung not as idols, not as legends, but as two young men choosing truth over fear. And though nothing would ever be the same, one thing was certain. This was the beginning of something far greater than any song.